Morning, folks. What's going on? What up, what up, what up? My friends, my people, how y'all doing? All right. We had a big monster run yesterday in the markets. We got a little bit of a gap down today. You know, the interesting thing of yesterday, beyond just the monster run in the morning and, of course, into the close post-Fed, is, you know, we finally kind of cleared that 20 SMA on the daily chart of the QQQs that's really been holding us down for, I mean, it's really been like the lid. So, like, if you think about if the bear market started in, really the bear market started probably in like November, but, you know, like if the rollover in the market, in the actual indexes, you know, started first week of January, this 20 SMA on the QQQs has really been like, that's been like a rock. Now we've protruded it for a little bit, a couple times. So you can see here, we came over for a day, we came over for a day, came over for like a little bit of a candle, pierced over it a little bit. So we finally got over it again, but we have kind of popped over it and dumped back. So I think, you know, one of the keys today will be like, if we start to hold up on this level, then we'll have something that, you know, maybe we can build on. We are still, we're not on a 5-day basis oversold, right? On like a longer term time frame, we're still pretty oversold. So this will be something to just be mindful of. The rate of descent has in the markets, in terms of like how fast it's been dropping, has slowed down considerably too. So, you know, it feels like, to me, we're entering into what's probably going to be a very, very volatile, you know, range for a period of time. You know, we could still have some upside in the market and come back, you know, into this zone. And then we could just drop back and, you know, it'll start looking like a bear market again. The Fed said they're going to raise interest rates seven times this year, which is, it looked like that was probably to be expected anyways. But in general, you know, people don't like rising interest rates. And so anytime they start mentioning that stuff, the market does get a little bit shaky here. So I think what we need to do today is, you know, play around with this 20 SMA. We have a week open on the market. We may flush off a little bit here, but let's start to see if we get some traction around here, and we can start building back for the red to green on the market, as there are signs that, you know, the speculative money is coming back into the market, you know, beyond just what's happening in the indexes. If you really look at the price action of like individual names, we're starting to get some action in small caps. Market breadth is still awful in terms of like breakouts versus breakdowns. So if you're looking at like, you know, 4% breakouts versus 4% breakdowns, it's pretty even across the board for the most part. We did have 1,000 pop yesterday, which is, you know, really important. But I think the interesting thing here is, like, you can see market breadth is improving. You know, you finally have a range break in the T2108 percentage stocks over the 40 PMA. You finally got some movement on this. Like, you know, it had gotten to extreme oversold levels. So anything under 20 is considered a buy in the market. It means that the market is so ugly that there's nowhere to go basically but bounce. And then usually anything under 10 is like sell your house, sell your kids scenario. The market's so ugly. They usually signal kind of longer term, you know, bottoms. If you look here, percentage stocks over the 200-day moving average are also getting, you know, we've been stuck in a range since January, but we are starting to see an improvement the last couple of days. So if we start to push out of this, that would really be helpful in terms of, you know, the broader base group of stocks that people like to trade beyond like your kind of FANG stocks and your regular index stocks, like your Apples and Googles and, you know, things of that nature. So this will be something that we monitor very, very heavily. The price action has been great the last couple of days, you know, but you got to remember, previous to the last couple of days, right? This group of trading days here was particularly nasty. Every spike was getting faded off, and, you know, the price action in general was nasty. But, we do have to use like a little bit of common sense too. Like if you look at some of the stocks that, we personally like to trade, like, I mean, how much farther can they go down? Well, they can always go down a lot farther, but at some point they got to come up for some air, right? So like, you can only come back down so far. Yeah, you can still keep going down, but like you're getting closer, obviously. Yeah, right. You're getting closer to the bottom than the top, right? But they could keep going down for a while, like Peloton and stuff like these don't always catch bounces. They can just keep grinding down. But in the meantime, like you will have these kind of 3, 4, 5 day, right, big rallies where you might be up 40, 50%. And, that's something that you always have to keep in the back of your head. Let's take a look at earnings PR plays. Let's see what kind of stocks are coming up on the Gapper list. And then from there, let's take a look and see like what kind of like our regular index plays are and kind of narrow these things down. This pick, you know what? This is probably, this has got like a big kind of base breakout. And this is what I mean by like, speculative plays are coming back. Like I won't play this, but in general, like when you start to see these type of things fire off, it is telling you that there is some broader participation in the markets. And maybe some of your, day traders are back and, there's the algos are back in a good way. It's like something like this, like it may have some heat today, but obviously you can't chase it up 90%. Mall, this is another one. Like this is actually like a decent looking chart. Like not really my particular flavor, but you do have like a rounding pattern here. And obviously you've got like 500 million shares that are coming in volume. Most likely this is probably a monster pump and dump stock, but it was just $15 like just a little bit ago. So, you could still, you can still roll with it. And as a chart play, like, if this was say a $30 stock, like you would say, hey, this looks pretty good, right? So you do have that apparatus of it. Like it looks good enough. Hey, so a couple things, like, so you're going to see right now. So if you look at the price of oil, you're up 5.5% today. If you look at the USO ETF, right, you were at $90. You rolled down into about $68, $67. If you look at the 2X ETF for oil, which is UCO, you've got 207, right? So this thing was cut in half, all right? And so now you're going to probably get like some dead cat bounces in oil. Hi, Mom. What's going on? Cool. Good morning.
Good morning.
So if you look here, like you've had a good retracement on this stuff. Now, if this holds, then we have a lot of like different oil names that are sitting on some support that could have like a 1 or 2 day bounce. I doubt oil breaks back out here. This to me felt like a climactic event. So we will get probably like a dead cat bounce into this zone of things. If that happens, this Oxy had news out today. Warren Buffett, Phoebe Buffet's older brother, he largened his stake in Oxy. I think he was at like 9.9. He's taken to 13.4. Usually when they start increasing their stakes like that, like at some point, he probably just buys the whole thing out. That'd be my day trader's guess, which is nothing, right? But if I had to guess, he probably buys the whole thing out. That's what they usually start to do, right? They start to inch up. They start inching up the percentages. And I think this stock has not been very good, like trying to like kind of chase it on strength, minus that one day it got like really, really hot. Like this day here. This is probably our top play. Like if we need a play, I think this is the one. On the oil side. Beyond that, if you want something a little bit more speculative, this Husa sitting on some support. This thing is a turn to trade. Man, it just pops up in knives sometimes, so you got to be super careful on this one, right? Like at frankly, like if you didn't know this was a big tire, like if you're just looking at the chart, you'd say like, hey, this thing is rounded, it's rebounding to 9, like it's probably got some room. Will it ever get up to here? Never, right? But could it get into this? There's a possibility, right? You get enough heat on something, like that could be something that also comes in, right? And then right, that 9 was hot for a few days. You went from 70 cents to $10. Like if you go down here, right, you got nice rounded pattern over here. You know, if you can remount the 9, I think that'll kind of set this thing off. These probably pop just 1 or 2 days, and then they die again, right? The odds of them getting ever back to here are nothing. They're dead cat bounces. I mean, you're almost better off letting it spike and shorting it, but that's a much trickier, that's a much trickier type of trade. So just be mindful of these things. I think probably out of the group, this one probably trades the easiest. Yeah, I've traded this a couple times unwillingly, but I think that one and Oxy, these look pretty good. Mosaic, you know, this thing knifed me a little bit. It trades very, even though it does 13 million shares a day. At the open, this thing is thin as a noodle. Just be mindful of it, but this has got a look to it, right? This has got a look to it. You've actually got kind of a level here at 59. Right. Yeah, you got a sweet spot here, 59. This is probably like more of like a 3-day range break, but that should release it. And if you get over the 59, I mean, I think you can, I mean, you could kind of creep into this, right, 62, 63 range. It actually moves pretty fast. Like it's got a $4, 4.4 ATR, 4.4 ATR. Yeah, I think this one's got some heat. So I'd add Mosaic, these oil stocks, this BTU is like really coiled up the last 3 days. So it had an offering. And so it got dumped off pretty good. That offering now has been, I would say, digested. And now you're kind of building out a little bit of a range here. This is another one. Like you've got yourself, I mean, you're real coiled up for a potential move here. I like the overall look of it, the overall structure of it. I think that one's looking pretty good. Right, like X has got a level here, right around kind of 34, 33. And then CLF has got what I would put maybe closer to 27. And when it goes, you know, what you really want to do is if you see it set up, because they don't have the big ATRs on them because they're a little bit lower priced. If you see it set up, you want to almost preempt it because like by the time it gets to where it really needs to go to release, it'll have used up half its ATR. And then at that point, you got to be just a little bit mindful. Now, okay, so let's just keep a list of a couple of these commodities plays. You know, I think the easiest ones are Oxy, Moss, CLF, and X. If you need something more speculative, you can go HUSA, Indo, BTU. Beyond that, you know, China stocks had a big run yesterday. Whether these were like one day poppers or like this is something more significant, we don't know yet. But you can see like they were basically rubber band longs. They gapped up yesterday and just went bajunkers. These we're going to have to play today. You know, whether they go red to green or not, we'll know at the open. If it does, that should trigger kind of day 2 plays on this. The issue is going to be they were up so much yesterday. You know, do you get like an inside day today where they just like fart around in range? I think not. I think even if there was an inside day on these things, they are going to have so much range on them that even an inside day would be still like 10, 15 points of movement up and down that we want to put these on the list. Like there's a whole host of these that they were really cooking and booking yesterday. Like this IQ was really hot. Baba, Huya, like right? Huya, like so I'm watching these right at the open. If these go red to green here, that probably starts like one more run in these. Even though they're up a lot the last couple days, they really have been beaten down this year. Like, some of these things are like right $30, $40. Man, there's some of these that we used to trade like Momo. There's so many of them that used to be so pricey. So I think, right, this Billy used to be $100 and something. Like you're in the 20s now. Let's watch the red to green spot on these bad boys. Let's make sure that, if they go, we got to still sell them off quick at the open, just in case they go red to green and then kind of settle back in the range, which we've been seeing a lot in this market where, they go red to green and you're like, oh, fuck, here we go. And then they kind of settle back inside the range and end up with a makeshift inside day. But I think this is going to be like, we got to play these things, right? Like, who are we kidding? All right, let's look on the downside, see if there's any good, stocks that had some news out. To the bad side, Warby Parker, adjusted loss widens as revenue rises, issues, blah, 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 blah. Yo, so if this has liquidity on it, this is probably a pretty bloated IPO for the most part. If this has liquidity on it, it's only got 300,000 shares so far in volume. If it's got liquidity on it, I'm ready for it. Jump. These are some China names. So all these China names are opening week. We'll have to see if they go red to green. And, if they don't, or if they fail at the red to green, then we know, like, we've got to fade these things off. Man, look at some of these things. There was some really interesting movement yesterday. That's why I do think there's probably a chance that the market's got a little bit more juice in it because you just have so many stocks squeezing lately. See this TME opening week. Look at this stuff. So all these Chinas are opening week. We'll watch. This is going to be interesting if we go red to green on these. Like this NIO, right? Some of these things are just so beaten up. The Chinese Tesla. AMD down 2%. Nvidia down 2%. Today, there's a strong chance that, we just end up with the inside day and digest these kind of 2 days worth of moves. If that happens, we'll have to do a little bit more range trading. So what we essentially need to see is if the market goes red to green at the open and really starts to push, then, okay, we've got something. If we can't, and it keeps like kind of faking out and looking like it's a short, but it's like the market is still too strong to roll over, but it's also, right, like too weak to long anything, then we're going to have an inside day. Inside days in the general market lately they've been really tricky to trade because like what ends up happening is, keep sucking in your short, you keep shorting at lows, and then like if the market doesn't roll over, and then like you kind of chase them back up as they like, you're thinking like, hey, we're going red to green on the market, and then, right, they dump off, and we've got stuck in this range, and that's happened to us a couple times last week, where we're like hammering the shorts at the lows, and then, right, it's squeezing up, and we're like, oh my God, right? And you lose 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents, so many damn times, like it ends up with a decent sized loss. So we'll have to be careful. The open will tell us everything. If we can push red to green at the open pretty close, pretty fast, I would say the first 30 minutes, then, we're going to have some easy trading on the long side. If we get sucked in here, right, and the market starts to roll, but then, like you say, you start shorting some ORBs or something and it rips back, then that'll give you the clue like, hey, we're probably getting an inside day. And then God help us. Then God help us, because they're just the biggest turd to trade. So let's go back into this. We've got some oil stocks. We've got two steel stocks, SCLF, X. We've got a couple speculative commodities plays like BTU. You have a whole host of these kind of shitty PR plays. And then we have our just general, right, stocks that we like to trade every day. Your AMDs, NVIDIAs, those are just proxies to the QQQs. So you want to watch the QQQs when you're trading those. And then we need to keep a list of China names to see if they go red to green. So Baba, IQ. I think Baidu's like a little bit into resistance. You could go Baba, IQ. I mean, there's so many of these damn things. You can use Billy. Frankly, you could really throw a dart at any of them. That's the list I'm seeing. Whoa. I've been trying to see this Batman forever. Cool. Have fun, Andrew. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. Anybody got any questions? Hey, Brad, how you doing? What up? You could probably, this would be more market dependent. It's like kind of like back into resistance a little bit, but I think there's just easier plays out there for you. Hey, James, let me see. TMC. Yeah, you could day trade this. I wouldn't hold this for longer than an hour or two, but you do have kind of I would say you have a level that's been building here at 325-ish. Once it clears that, you'll start to see it speed up. So not too bad. Zim, let me look. Yeah, I mean, it's getting pretty extended. Like it's probably due for a little bit of a pull. It trades super thin at the open too. So, not my particular flavor, but I think this should at least snap back into the 90 EMA. So you got about 10% downside. It may snap 10% fast too. Like you could just get like one giant red candle out of this and have yourself some fun. There was some news on drones too yesterday. So, you have like UAVs had a little bit of a pop, but I don't know. They got nice bases here. I'd set an alert, like you start to kind of clear this 120, then you get yourself a little base breakout. Yeah, I think you got easier plays than this. I mean, I see the setup here, but how fast is it? Is there something easier to play? Like if you're going to do that kind of gap fill, I'd almost rather do, play like something like a DocuSign or something that's got a little bit more range. 50-50. I think you got easier plays out there. Good. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. Let's have some fun today. Let's get our 6 windows layouts going. All right, rock and roll. Hold on, I'm fluffing my coffee. Oh, you can turn the volume up if you want.
No.